Dr. Atia was an intern surgeon at St. Johns Hopkins University. And part of his duty was to respond to emergency calls at the hospital. So one night at 2 a.m., he was called in for a consult. A woman had been admitted with an ulcer on her foot, a diabetic ulcer on her foot. And he was brought in to consult whether or not the ulcer was so far progressed that they needed to amputate the foot. This story was recounted by Dr. Atia in a TED Talk that he gave recently on diabetes. And I found it quite intriguing. He recounts his feelings and his sentiments about that day. And he says, I wish that I could say that I showed as much love and compassion and empathy for this woman that night, having to face this issue of having her foot amputated, as I had to the woman 3 days earlier. Now, 3 days earlier, a 27-year-old newlywed was brought in with back pains. And after the test results came back, I had to go to her and tell her the news that she had advanced pancreatic cancer. And there was nothing I could do. And at that time, I reached out to her and tried my best to show her empathy and care and to give her comfort as she was being admitted and to comfort her parents who were with her. But most of all, I did not pass judgment on her because I knew and realized that the cancer was not something that she could have prevented. It just happened. And this is the important question that Dr. Atia asks in the story. He says, but why was it then 3 days later, in the same emergency room, I stood there and looked at this woman who I had to amputate her foot, and I, instead of filled with compassion, was filled with rage and contempt? Why was I so upset? Well, the woman, it turns out, she had type 2 diabetes and was quite obese. And of course, everybody knows that you get type 2 diabetes because you don't eat right and you don't exercise, right? That's the common belief. And I was angry at her because I thought, why couldn't you have taken better care of yourself? Why couldn't you have cared a little bit more about your body and about your health and about your family and not done the right thing? But instead, you're faced here by me, a stranger, a doctor you've never met, who has to make the decision about taking your foot. When I think about the Good Samaritan story, I think we can ask a similar question. Why was it the same person lying on the road has 3 different people come by him with radically different reactions to his situation? What was different? What was the rationale behind the first 2 men deciding not to stop, but instead going on? Perhaps the text doesn't tell us, so we have to try to figure it out. Try to guess maybe what's going on. Perhaps the priest, when he came by, he goes, oh, I don't have time. It's late. I need to be at the temple. I need to get into town. Or perhaps he said, oh, no, I'm not a physician. I don't know how to care for this. Maybe it's going to be more complicated than I realize, and I just can't go there. I can't get involved. Or maybe he looked and he goes, this is a dangerous situation. It's a dangerous road. Maybe this could be an ambush. I don't dare stop. I could become the victim. We've all wrestled with those thoughts and struggled with that. What are the reasons why we decide to stop for one person and not for another? Or perhaps the rationale for the second man was this. Instead of looking at himself and how this might impact him, he looks at the victim instead. And he looks at him and he goes, why wasn't he carrying a weapon? Doesn't he know this is a dangerous road? This is a dangerous place to be? Or why didn't he have company? Why did he do this alone? He deserves that, if that's the way his attitude is about this dangerous place. Or maybe he looked at him and said, look at the way he's dressed. Of course he invited to get attacked and assaulted. The way he's dressed invited that. Everybody could tell he wanted to get attacked if he's going to dress that way. Or maybe he looks at him, realizes that maybe he's a foreigner, someone that normally isn't around there. Well, he should know that this road, people don't like his kind here. And he would have been attacked because those kinds of people are not welcome here. But either way, whether you're the first person who looks at themselves and says, well, this is why I can't do this, I'm not capable or I'm not willing, or you're the second person and you look at the victim and you blame the victim for the reason why they're in that position. Either way, it doesn't change the situation for the victim. It only justifies the reason why you feel okay to walk on and not get involved. But these are common excuses that we wrestle with. We hear them in our culture. We hear them from others. Maybe we've even said them ourselves in the privacy of our car or in the privacy of our time while we watch the news and we get upset about something going on, but we don't want to get involved. It is the danger of our humanity. But let's take a moment and move from the two first travelers, and let's take the position of the victim. He's lying there alone, cold, hurt, in pain, not able to get up. And I can hear the words of the psalmist that we read this morning coming from his mouth. My God, do not let my aggressors triumph over me. Have mercy on me. Be attentive to my cry and deliver me. And perhaps he even felt a sense of, well, maybe I brought this on myself. And he says, do not hold the sins of my youth against me. Have mercy on me. Deliver me from this. We can relate to that. We know what that's like when hardship comes in our life. We get a disease, we don't know why. Whether we thought we brought it on because of a poor lifestyle or we didn't. We lose a job. We face hardship. We, like the psalmist, cry out, oh God, have mercy on me. Mercy is a term that says, take it easy. You may be justified in punishing me this way, but relent. Ease my suffering. We know what that feels like. We all have cried that at one point or another in our lives. Whether we feel guilty or not, we ask for God's grace, deliverance, mercy, and care. Well, what if you are that victim on the side of the road and you see the first traveler and the second traveler go by and you hear them say their reasons for why they're not going to stop? I'm sorry, I don't have time for you. I need to keep going. No wonder you're there. You should be there. Look at the way you're dressed. Again, it doesn't help the victim where they're at, but it re-victimizes them in that place. So instead of being hurt once, they're hurt twice and scarred by that pain. So Jesus asks us to identify and to understand that victim. And he challenges us to empathize and understand that victim's position. And when the Samaritan comes by, his reaction is compassion. He shifts. He, unlike the others, don't look at the situation. He looks at himself and sees himself in that victim. And he is moved with compassion. The word compassion, co-passioning, companion of passion. He is moved to action because he can identify those feelings that that man on the road might be experiencing. He's able to look at that and go, oh, that was me at one time. Or, that could be me someday. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, is the passage that the lawyer quotes. But we also know the golden rule. Love your neighbor. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That was the core of the message that Jesus said. And so when we're faced with these situations, we're tempted with both, with all of that. To move from contempt and victim blaming to self-preservation, to compassion, takes us to stop and to see ourselves in the other. Now, Dr. Attia